This is Jonathan Wallace again. I'm speaking to you on the same message that I spoke to you last time, that in Isaiah 48:10, it says, "Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction." And that's what I want to speak to you about today, that's how God makes his choice about you, is in your furnace. We have a church world that they believe that God chooses whenever they're on the mountaintop, but God chooses us when we're going through the furnace. And the word there is that it denotes chosen, or choose, denotes I give you a grade in the midst of your furnace. And that's how God, he grades you in the midst of your furnace. Now, Paul the apostle, in the 11th chapter of 2 Corinthians, the 24th verse, it says, "Of the Jews 5 times I received 40 stripes, save one. Thrice I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep, in journeyings often, in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils amongst false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watching often, in hunger and in thirst, in fasting often, in cold and nakedness, beside those things that are without, that which cometh unto me daily, the care of all the churches." Now, Paul the apostle was the apostle of apostles, and he suffered many things of his brethren. He suffered many things of the heathen. He was in shipwreck. He was beaten. God put his seal upon Paul's life. And that's the thing in our day and hour, is that we want God to put his seal upon our lives. And if you are not going through hard times in this time, it's a sad thing whenever we don't want to go through hard times. Because God, he chooses us. He gives us a grade in the midst of our affliction. He gives us a grade in the midst of our storm. David was chosen by God, and Samuel came out to Jesse's house, and he sanctified Jesse and his sons and called them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked unto Eliab and said, "Surely the Lord's anointed is before him." But the Lord said unto Samuel, "Look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, "Neither hath I chosen this one." Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, "Neither hath the Lord chosen this." Again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, "The Lord has not chosen these." And Samuel said unto Jesse, "Are here all thy children?" And he said, "There remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep." And Samuel said unto Jesse, "Send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither." And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, and withal a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look to. And the Lord said, "Arise, anoint him, for this is he Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. Now we're talking about the choosing of God. I'm reading it out of my book here that I wrote. He didn't choose the firstborn. He didn't choose the one that was taller, because the Bible said that a man looks on the outward, and God doesn't look on the outward. God looks on the inward, looks on the heart of a man. And God rejected all 7 of Jesse's sons, and God chose the one that was still watching the sheep. He was on the backside of the wilderness, and all that he was doing was watching sheep, and he would take and he was singing before the Lord, dancing before the Lord. And this is how God makes his choice about our lives. And he makes his choice about your life is in your private times, whenever you're singing before the Lord and no one is paying attention to you or no one is watching you, but God is watching you. And this is when God makes his choice about you, because God is looking on the heart. He's not looking on the outward of man. And here recently I read an article, a Christian magazine article, and they were talking about how you're supposed to dress, the accessories you're supposed to wear, all these things, and at the very end they mentioned God. But God doesn't look at all to the outward. He looks to the heart of a man. My wife, a few years back, she had a vision in which she saw a beautiful lady wearing a white dress running. As she ran, there appeared a wedding veil in a glass dome case. As the lady ran by the glass case opened up and the veil came out and rested upon her head. My wife gasped and in her vision said, "Oh Lord, this must be the revival that we have all been waiting for." Then she heard the voice of the Lord say, "Wait and watch." And she watched. The beautiful lady ran into New Age and into witchcraft. Then in the same vision, she saw a huge raindrop fall from the sky. It was not clear like a raindrop usually is, but was encased in something, some film, some substance. It was not at all appealing to the natural eye. When it hit the ground, it did not burst. She saw the city that it landed in, and the raindrop laid there. She saw people pushing against the raindrop, trying to burst it, but without success. The Lord told her that just as he had come as a babe, and the world was looking for a king, in the same way, people are looking for revival. They're looking for a revival that is filled with the outward. They're looking for something that God is not in, because God was not in this veil and this bride that came running by. This woman that came running by, my wife even gasped, said, "Oh, this must be the revival that, Lord, you have sent to us." But the Lord said, "No, wait. For I have not chosen this move of God, this move, because this move will go into a new age and it will go into witchcraft." And God, he knows what to choose and how to choose men. Now, he desires to choose men. He desires to choose women. He's wanting to put his seal upon us in this hour. The world was looking for a king, but he came as a babe. The world is looking for a revival. They are looking for the glitz and the glamour, but it's coming in some other way. It's not going to be so pretty. It's not going to be glitzy, but it's going to come as the Lord prepares it. After he had spoken these things, Jesus appeared to her and took her inside the raindrop. My wife said that she has been in the presence of the Lord many times, but what was in the raindrop was as liquid gold, for no better earthly word can describe it. As they were inside the raindrop, it burst and it began to spread out. The liquid would hit people. She saw many alcoholics instantly delivered, people set in their right minds, blind eyes open, and on people who had no arms or no legs, she saw new ones grow instantly. And this is the thing that we must remember. In this hour, that God is looking for his people. He's looking. And I remember that I was at Henry Gruver's place, and I was there, and I had been praying. I was preaching that night, and I remembered that I seen these two boxes in heaven. All of a sudden, the ceiling, it folded back as fire, burnt and I seen these two big boxes that were on fire. And then I seen a sea of people down below, and they begin to speak, and they begin to say, yeah, but they're of no use. They're of no use. And all of a sudden, the one box that was filled with golden vessels, it began to desire. I know that it was desiring that it would just be of use. And so all of a sudden, from that one box that I seen inside of it, an escalator went down to the ground, and it began to dig into the ground, and it kicked up dirt all over this box. And these vessels inside of this box, they became earthen vessels or clay vessels. The people, they begin to go, oh, well, now they're of use. And so they got on this escalator, and they rode it up, and they began to get the vessels out of the box, and they began to hand them out to different people. And then they were very happy because these were useful vessels. But the thing is that in the one box, the fire kept on going. The fire, the hot, intense fire. I took and I watched God's hands come down, and he picked up the vessels that were still in the fire, and they were golden vessels. And he just took one of them and poured it out across the earth. And great healings came. Great miracles came. People were praising God. People were accepting Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And then I seen God's hand come down, and he had, I don't know why I know it, but he had $70 in one hand and $100 in another hand. And he said to me, which do you choose, Jonathan? And I said, well, Lord, I choose the $100. And I heard him, he asked me the question. He said, why do you choose the $100? He said, there's many more of these here. And I said, well, the $100 is more valuable. And he said, so it is, Lord, Jonathan, because he said, and it is in my kingdom also. He said, I have many, many that are useful, but I have few that are valuable. And God, he chooses us by the value he puts into our heart. He puts into our lives. God is choosing men and women today that will learn to wait on him, that will learn to practice patience. The Bible says that let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Patience has a work in your life. And God is taking and He is choosing us by our patience, by what He has placed inside of our life, how that we can go through the fire in this hour. We have a tendency in man to value people by their use. And that's not the way that God values man. It's not what we have done for the Lord, but it's who we are in the Lord in this hour. God is choosing us in the midst of our furnace. God bless you. If you have a request or prayer request in this hour, we'd be glad to pray for you. God bless you so much.